Hey everyone, welcome to KSSP Podcast. I am Spencer.
I'm Katie, and today we are going to talk about some different holiday traditions. So, we've got a couple of videos and then a few articles to go through here today. And then this first video is the pagan roots of Christmas.
Christmas. It's the time of year when we in the West celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ with nice things like nativity plays and carol singing where we sing about Jesus and God and all of these very Christian things. And of course the name is Christ Mass. It goes right back to this old Christian idea. So Christmas must be incredibly Christian and all about Jesus and God and the Bible, right? Well, not quite. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the pagan and mostly the Northern European pagan origins of Christmas and some of the things we do. Christmas Day is celebrated on the 25th of December, although there is no real link to this with the birth of Jesus Christ. We're not actually sure on which day he was born. However, there is a very strong link to one of the festivals called Yule by the Old Norse, Yule by the Old Frisians, and Yule by the Old English. And this festival was a very important part of the pagan calendar, not only in the Northern European pagan traditions, but also in many other ones around the world, as it coincided with one of the major changes in the year to do with the harvests. Now, Yule, if we look at the Old Frisian word, or Yola, we see that it actually means wheel. And the reason for this is that the old Germanic people saw the year as being in a wheel shape, and that the very bottom of the wheel was December. The reason for this was that at the very bottom of the wheel, the days were the shortest. It's on the 20th.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, because technically you could say that the year is a circle because we orbit the sun.
Yeah, so where is... So, is... I'm confused. Where's January? Is it right after this? It has to be right after December.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I'm picturing January at the top, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but
Right.
okay. So
I
what
was
would be
kind
at
of
the
doing that
top?
too a little bit.
Just the
I guess
opposite of
so.
December?
Yeah,
July?
maybe like
Or...
July, I think.
Okay. Okay, I don't know why I was thinking
Or June or
January is at the
July.
top, because I think I was thinking January starts the circle, but then how would December be halfway? But otherwise, yes, that is interesting. Like, that's
And
cool.
he's
I
called
like,
the YOLO wheel. That's kind of funny.
yeah,
But I think that's just how you pronounce this.
yeah, because their language
YOLO.
enunciation was obviously different than ours back then. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we probably I guess I don't know if we took roots from them. I think we took roots from many different languages, didn't we? Didn't
Oh, yeah.
English take
Yeah,
different
English.
roots?
Yeah. It's I don't think it's a romantic language technically. Like I don't think it's a Latin. Like although we
Oh,
do have
okay.
some of our languages similar to Latin, I think, that I've
Okay.
seen. Like but it's not a romantic language in the same way that like Spanish is or French.
Yeah.
Some of the wheel, the days were the shortest. It's on the 21st of December that we think that the pagans back then, and indeed neo-pagans today, still celebrate the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year, because from that point on, the wheel starts to go back up, as in the days start getting longer. And it's actually seen in the
That
old
makes more
Germanic tradition
sense.
as being a...
What?
That makes more sense why July and like
Yeah.
summer months are at the top then, because then the days are
Mhm.
longer, and then December and
Right.
January would be at the bottom of the circle. I that clicks now.
Yeah. Also, I really want to see these lights in person one day.
Yeah, can't you see them from Canada or Alaska even,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
maybe
some parts.
like what, Washington, or is that
I think Washington might be a
sometimes?
little too far south. I'm
Okay,
not sure though. I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me.
maybe like rarely you could see them. I guess I don't know
Yeah.
either, but I do want to see it. Yeah, there's an Alaskan cruise that I feel like you could
Oh, yeah,
probably
I heard
maybe see
about
them
that.
on.
That would be awesome.
You probably have to go around certain dates though still to
Yeah,
try to ensure you can actually see them, but that would be really
definitely.
cool.
Yes.
sort of war against light, against dark. Obviously, winter is when the days, especially in the north, in Northern Europe, when the days get shorter, there's obviously much longer nights. So people would see this as, the darker season of the year. And obviously, the 21st of December is when the days start getting lighter, start getting longer, and when the light starts winning again. And obviously, this is very much related to the idea that at the end of the world, at Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, the huge Fenris wolf would break loose and would eventually eat the sun, heralding the start of the Fimbul winter,
Oh
which was this
boy.
terrible winter that would last a long time. So Yule for the Germanic peoples was a time for celebration when they tried to bring as much light into the houses and into people's hearts. And one of the ways they did this was by giving each other presents. Now, again, if you are in a society where they do this, Christmas lights, things like that, with candles and whatnot, all goes back to
Oh,
this idea of the light winning against the darkness, which isn't just in paganism.
so that's where Christmas lights came from.
That's actually really cool. I never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Although I don't know what's going on with this guy on the right here on his forehead.
I think that is a don't quote. I think it's a Norse symbol.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I want to say I think he's a Norse god. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I am not very well versed on
Interesting.
Norse
Yeah, I would
uh,
not know any of that.
mythology or religion. I don't know if they call it a religion or mythology. I I would consider all religions a mythology personally, and not in
Yeah,
an offensive way. They're just to me mythology. But
yeah,
I
I would
respect
agree with
anyone
that for sure.
who wants to believe what they want to believe. That's
Yeah,
fair.
like if someone wanted to believe in like the Greek gods or something, like I don't
Yeah.
care. That's as long as you're not hurting anybody. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So I think yeah. But to me, I guess I just still consider it mythology. But I do
Yeah,
love learning about all of them. But I do, yeah, I think it's some Norse. I think. But again, I don't. And I think they just. I want to say Vikings loved tattoos, though, didn't they? Or maybe that's just the
yeah.
modern
I
day
I mean that's what I've heard.
interpretation of them. But
I've heard that information before. I don't know
okay.
if it's true, but I have heard that.
And it's also in Hinduism and to a lesser extent Christianity as well. It's not solely related to paganism, but that's the topic of this video. And in the season, people would give each other gifts. Families would give each other gifts at this time, obviously to celebrate and to celebrate the light coming back, as well as bringing evergreens into the houses. As evergreens were also signs that things carried on, that it was all part of the wheel of life that they believed in, and that then the days were obviously getting lighter again, and things would becoming green again. So again, this is another symbolism for the fact that light is triumphing over darkness. And obviously, we still do this by bringing in Christmas trees, and they sort of amalgamated the two by bringing in a tree, an evergreen, so usually a fir or a pine, and by decorating these trees. Now, why trees, you might ask? Well, trees were very important for our Germanic forefathers because, of course, the world tree, the very tree that they believed the world was a part of, was called Yggdrasil. And Yggdrasil was essentially a huge tree with, at the bottom of it, you have Nidhogger, who is this dragon who gnaws on the.
Okay, so do you know the song like "O Tannenbaum," like the Christmas Carol, or like "O Christmas
Uh,
Tree" in English? Like
I,
"Oh
I,
Christmas tree, oh Christmas tree."
I feel like I've heard it, but I don't know like the
Yeah,
lyrics or anything.
I don't know all the lyrics,
Okay.
but it's originally a German song. "O
Oh.
Tannenbaum" is the original song. So that would make sense why they'd have a whole song about the Christmas tree because they believe in this. Seems like a tree of life to me, type thing. I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah, and then in the Norse, I know their tree, they had like a tree that connected all the realms,
Oh,
realms.
round, yeah.
Yes. So like there was a realm where the humans lived, and then there was one where the gods lived, and then there was like
Mhm.
one that was like the underworld, and there
Yeah,
was a bunch, and then there's like a frost. I think I'd have to relook into it, but that was a
interesting.
tree as well. So I think it's really like because I was never taught that either about Christmas trees. So I think it's really
Yeah,
interesting just to understand the history and roots of it. It just makes it more. I don't know. It almost just gives it more depth instead
yeah.
of just being just Christmas. I guess for
Like just
me,
because.
yeah. Like why do we bring a tree in? Oh well, this is why, and it's just
Yeah,
I don't know. I love learning about it personally, but
I do too. Yeah.
The roots and all the different worlds, so the worlds of men, of giants, of elves, dwarves, all of this, they all sit
Oh,
on this tree. So obviously it's hugely important. And actually Odin, the head god, the chief god, he actually hung from Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights in his quest for wisdom. So obviously there is a deep connection. And various deities actually have specific trees that are dedicated to them.
oh,
And for example, when Boniface went to Frisia and decided to chop down, it's called Donner's Egg in Dutch, Donger's Eik, which is the oak tree of Thor. Oak trees were related to Thor. This is why the Frisians killed him, because trees were really important to the Germanic peoples. And of course, he was contributing to deforestation, which wasn't cool, Boniface. You want to sort that attitude out.
Yeah.
Now, another interesting thing about plants in the season is mistletoe. And for those of you who aren't aware, there is a tradition in the West, at least in Britain, and I'm fairly sure over the pond as well and in other parts, that if two people, usually a lad and a lass, although anyone else, that's fine, if they meet under mistletoe, then they have to kiss. And this tradition also probably goes back to the old pagan traditions and
Oh.
to a god called Balder. Now, Balder was the son of Odin, and he is the god of light and happiness and essentially pure, nice, good things. But he was actually killed by a trickster god called Loki, who tricked his brother Hoder, who was blind and also a smith, I believe, into killing him with a staff of mistletoe. Now, you might think it's weird that then mistletoe is this good, nice item, but actually there is an idea that in one version of the story, Balder eventually comes back, and that's another kind of thing in the Norse myths and things that a lot of it is still things that are to come. So Ragnarok hasn't happened yet; it's still going to come, and it's the same with Balder. They believe Balder will come back at some point, so they then connect mistletoe with Balder, with happiness and goodness, that kind of thing, as well as perhaps being connected to Freya, because in some versions of the story, Balder is brought back to life, and then Freya, to sort of cover up the whole misdoing of the spear of mistletoe, or the arrow of mistletoe that killed him, makes mistletoe this plant of love and happiness and kindness, because of course Freya is the goddess of love as well, so then you have that connection there. And I should also mention that mistletoe is very important to the Celtic peoples, especially to the Druidic class, who probably used it in various rituals. And the white berries in the Norse mythology, at least, are said to be the tears of Freya, who wept obviously when her son Balder was killed. So in a previous video, I talked about Sinterklaas, who is essentially the Dutch kind of Santa Claus figure, although we celebrate that on the 5th of December rather than the 25th. And I did mention that Father Christmas as well is sort of a more British and older spirit, but they are very much related. And actually, when you compare Sinterklaas or Father Christmas actually with Odin, the Germanic chief god, you see a lot of similarities between them, as they are all essentially based on the same character. So you see that this, again, the whole idea of Santa Claus is very much based on the one-eyed wandering god who also flew through the sky, who also gave things to men, and that kind of thing, which is very interesting once again. And he is actually Odin. One of his names is the Yolfather. And the Yolfather means, again, Yol from the same thing as we get the Yule in English is sometimes used, and Yule in various Scandinavian languages. So he was called the Yule Father, which is literally Father Christmas, but then with the different words that they used at the time, which is very interesting once again. And it's thought that perhaps the word jolly came into English from French, actually, in a similar route from jolly and Yule or Yol. And of course, Odin is famous for the wild hunt, which took place at some point during the winter as well, which is essentially where he and lots of other riders would ride through the sky and chase after another mystical animal. And anyone who was wandering sort of outside at this time had to be very careful, because otherwise they would be dragged along with this wild hunt, and people had to sort of bow down onto the road and not look up as the wild hunt passed over. And this, again, is a very interesting concept that I'll make more videos about in future. And actually, Yule was a very big deal for the Scandinavians and for the Northern Germanic tribes, because there was a lot of celebrating to be done. Again, it's celebrating the fact that light triumphs over darkness. And actually, in Norway, the first Christian king of Norway, actually Håkon, Håkon den Gode, or Håkon the Good, he actually made it compulsory for people to drink a substantial amount of alcohol over all the days during the feast. And it was he who brought the sort of the Christian Christmas kind of feast to be on the same days as Yule, as Yule, so the festival of the pagans. And while he was a Christian king, he at that time needed the support of the pagan earls, so he didn't do much to convert the Scandinavians. But it's interesting that he then made it compulsory for people to do this.
Yeah.
And it seems that horse meat and the consumption of horse meat was a very important part of the Yule festival, as were making oaths. So, for example, Ragnar Lothbrok, the reason he went to England with 2 ships and was then ended up being thrown.
Wait. So people used to eat horse meat?
Is that what they said?
Yeah, he said horse meat was an important part of the Christmas meal. And of the pagan holiday meal, I guess. I didn't know people used to eat horses, though.
No, I guess, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I guess it's meat, but it's just...
Yeah. It doesn't sound very appetizing to me, though. But I guess back in the day, you had to eat the meat you had.
Yeah. Especially for people who were probably doing raids and just had their horse. I mean, they're not going to eat their horse because they need their horse to keep...
I wouldn't think so.
...going forward, but yeah, I never knew that, but that is very interesting.
Yeah.
in a snake pit was because while he was drunk, he made an oath to the gods, to the Asir, that he would go over to England and capture Northumbria with 2 shiploads of men, which didn't go very well. But these oaths were taken incredibly seriously by the North Germanic peoples of the time. And, these oaths are the reason why we have New Year's resolutions, which are essentially also oaths, although many people don't end up sticking to them. That also comes down to all the feasting and celebrating throughout Yule, which is usually a few weeks long, and that they then promise, they swear an oath to do something.
Oh.
And as well, you have that this is often called a blot. Blot is the Old Norse word for blood, and blood comes down to the fact that they would sacrifice an animal during this time and eat it to make a big feast out of it. And what do? We all sacrifice our turkeys and eat those. So, you can thank the old Germanic peoples for that as well. So thank you very much for watching.
All right, that's the pagan roots of Christmas with History with Hilbert.
Okay.
All right. Then we've got one more video. We'll see how it goes here. The Origins of the Christmas Tree. Is it pagan? By Bible Flockbox.
Okay.
Well, here's a
sheep.
good chart. Good start. Sorry. Oh my god, that's funny. I mean, I guess it's also a good chart. Prepare to have your eyes opened, and the picture of a sheep is an interesting start. So we'll see how this video goes.
You still have it at 1.25?
Oh, let me check the settings.
I mean, just let it, goes a little faster.
Yeah.
Unless it's too fast, or if it's too slow, we can increase it.
Yeah, if it's too slow, I can turn it up.
Yeah.
Bible Flockbox. This is the third in a series of videos I'm doing about Christmas. I'll leave a link in the upper left-hand corner of the screen to part 1 if you'd like to watch it from the beginning, and in the upper right-hand corner to part 4 once I post it. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the origin of the Christmas tree, and should Christians have Christmas trees in their home? Many people have wondered if Jeremiah chapter 10 talks about the Christmas tree and therefore condemns it. It reads, "For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." There are a number of people that believe this has to do with cutting a tree down and decorating it, as is the case with the modern Christmas tree. But to be honest, that is not the case here. This is actually talking about making a wooden idol. Verse 3 is the indication for that. It talks about cutting the tree down and then working it with the axe. However, axe can also be translated as chisel. For instance, verse 3 in the NIV puts it this way: "For the practices of the people are worthless. They cut a tree out of the forest, and a craftsman shapes it with his chisel." Jeremiah is not condemning Christmas trees. He is condemning idolatry. The trees in Jeremiah 10 are cut down to carve them into worthless idols that will later be decorated with gold and silver. Jeremiah says nothing about Christmas trees. That custom originated in Northern Europe. Before I get into that, though, I want to mention some pagan celebrations using tree branches, which may have had...
How do you feel about this video so far?
It's interesting. I know that part of when Christianity was... I don't know if it was out of the goodness of their heart that they were bringing in these people, but when they were bringing in these other people with these other religious views, they wanted to stop. Like if I remember correctly, it was that they were letting them join as long as they stopped following their previous idols. Right. So I guess that makes sense that they're saying you can't. Like, that makes sense that they had that in the Bible then, that you're not allowed to cut a tree down for an idol or something, because then like they didn't want people to do that anymore, although that was obviously important to them back then.
I mean, that's true. Deforestation isn't good for the planet either, so I could
that yes, that is true too.
All right.
That's something in common with the development of the Christmas tree. For example, the ancient Egyptians worshipped a god called Ra, who had the head of a hawk and wore the sun as a blazing disc in his crown. As the winter solstice approached, which was around December the 21st or 22nd, the days were at their shortest. This was a sign to the Egyptians that Ra was ill. At the winter solstice, it was believed Ra began to recover from his illness because the days started becoming longer. Therefore, the Egyptians filled their homes with green palm rushes, which symbolized for them the triumph of life over death. Early Romans marked the solstice with a feast called Saturnalia. in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture. The Romans knew that the solstice meant that soon farms and orchards would be green and fruitful.
Wait, was Saturn the god of agriculture?
That I do not know.
I mean, that could have been one of his little purviews, I guess. But I thought he was supposed to be like the father of Jupiter. I think that if I'm remembering it's been a while since I've studied mythology, but
like Saturnalia.
So Saturn would be the god.
Oh,
Yeah, because the planets are named after Roman gods. So like Saturn is like, I think he's either the main god or like the father or something. And we'll go over Saturnalia more too.
Oh, okay.
So, well, yeah, we'll definitely see that.
Okay.
To mark the occasion, they decorated their homes and temples with evergreen boughs. In Northern Europe, the mysterious Druids, the priests of the ancient Celts, also decorated their temples with evergreen boughs as a symbol of everlasting life. And the Vikings of Scandinavia thought that evergreens were the special plant of the sun god Balder. However, the first documented use of an actual tree at Christmas and New Year celebrations is in the town square of Riga, the capital of Latvia, in the year 1510. In the square, there is a plaque which is engraved with the first New Year's tree in Riga in 1510 in 8 languages. The tree might have been a paradise tree. A paradise tree was used in plays to represent the Garden of Eden. Not much is known about the tree, apart from that it was attended by men wearing black hats, and that after the ceremony, they burnt the tree. The first person to bring a Christmas tree into a house in the way we know it today may have been the 16th century German preacher Martin Luther. A story is told that one night before Christmas, he was walking through the forest and looked up to see the stars shining through the tree branches. It was so beautiful that he went home and told his children that it reminded him of Jesus, who left the stars of heaven to come to earth at Christmas. In Germany, the first...
Wait, what? I didn't realize Jesus left the stars of heaven to come to earth at Christmas. Or is he talking about the birth of Jesus? Like, that's some lore I've never heard before.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
First Christmas trees were decorated with edible things, such as gingerbread and gold-covered apples. Then glassmakers made special small ornaments similar to some of the decorations used today. And it was German settlers of Pennsylvania which were the first ones to display a Christmas tree in America. The first record of one being displayed was in the 1830s. However, even into the 1840s, Christmas trees were seen as pagan symbols and not accepted by most Americans. But in 1846, that changed. The popular royals Queen Victoria and her German Prince Albert were sketched in the Illustrated London News standing with their children around a Christmas tree. Unlike the previous royal family, Victoria was very popular with her subjects, and what was done at court immediately became fashionable not only in Britain, but with fashion-conscious East Coast American society. The Christmas tree had arrived. The Bible doesn't condemn the use of a Christmas tree. Pagans adorn their homes and temples with tree branches during the winter solstice to celebrate their sun god, and the first use of an actual Christmas tree in the home may have started with Protestant reformer Martin Luther. Then the German immigrants brought this practice with them to America, where it later caught on. So that brings me to the question, should Christians have Christmas trees in their homes? I don't see anything wrong with it, personally, and I'm a pretty conservative Christian. In my opinion, a tree is a plant, and if you want to have a plant in your home and decorate it, that's your business. There's no sin in that, as long as you don't bow down before it and worship it. So what if pagans did something kind of similar first? We have different motives, and that makes a world of difference. That's my opinion on the matter.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, they stole the whole holiday from the pagans, so... Yeah, I think dealing the tradition of the Christmas tree is perfectly fine at this point. All right, so this is all from the History Channel, all my sources today from here out. So we've got the history of Christmas. So how did Christmas start? The middle of winter has been a time of celebration around the world. Centuries before the arrival of a man called Jesus, early Europeans celebrated light and birth in the darkest days of winter. Many people rejoiced during the winter solstice, when the worst of the winter was behind them and they could look forward to longer days and extended hours of sunlight. In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule from December 21st, winter solstice, through January. In recognition of the return of the sun, fathers and sons would bring home large logs, which they would set on fire. People would feast until the log burned out, which could take as many as 12 days. The Norse believed that each spark from the fire represented a new pig or calf that would be born during that coming year. The end of December was a perfect time for celebration in most areas of Europe. At that time of year, most cattle were slaughtered, so they would not have been fed during the winter. For many, it was the only time of year when they had a supply of fresh meat. In addition, most wine and beer made during the year was finally fermented and ready for drinking. In Germany, people honored the pagan god Odin during the midwinter holiday. Germans were terrified of Odin as they believed he made nocturnal flights through the sky to observe his people and then decided who would prosper or perish. Because of his presence, many people chose to stay inside. And then there's Saturnalia on Christmas. In Rome, where winters were not as harsh as those in the far north, Saturnalia, a holiday in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture, was celebrated. Beginning in the week leading up to the winter solstice and continuing for a full month, Saturnalia was a hedonistic time when food and drink were plentiful and the normal Roman social order was turned upside down. For a month, enslaved people were given temporary freedom and treated as equals. Oh, that's pretty awesome. Business and schools were closed so that everyone could participate in the holiday festivities. We need to do something like that.
Yeah, not
having
enslaving,
but
like,
like
I get what you're saying.
The working class, something like that would be cool. And
or like
closing businesses and schools so everyone could be festive. That'd be cool.
Or even like the Yule, where it's like a 12-day thing.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, burning a log. Why not?
Yeah.
Sounds
celebrating
fun.
for 12 days.
All right. And then also around the time of the winter solstice, the Romans observed Juvenalia, a feast honoring the children of Rome. In addition, members of the upper classes often celebrated the birthday of Mirtha, the god of unconquerable sun, on December 25th. It was believed that Mithra, an infant god, was born of a rock. Okay. For some Romans, Mithra's birthday was the most sacred day of the year, December 25th. So basically, all right, this is a whole article is Christmas really the day Jesus was born? And honestly, probably not. From what I understand, he's probably born closer to like April from people who like study and analyze the Bible. Like that's what I've been told.
Okay.
But the Bible doesn't mention his date of birth at all. But I guess it says Pope Julius I chose December 25th. It was an effort to adopt and absorb the traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival. First called the Feast of Nativity, the custom spread to Egypt by 432 and to England by the end of the 6th century. When Christmas was canceled.
What?
Oh, yeah, it was canceled. That's right. Like early on in history. Like in the early 17th century. A wave of religious reform changed the way Christmas was celebrated in Europe. When Oliver Cromwell and his Puritan forces took over in England, they vowed to rid England of decadence and, as part of their effort, canceled Christmas. By popular demand, Charles II was restored to the throne, and with him came the return of the popular holiday. So it was just banned for a little bit in the 17th century. Yeah, so that's Christmas. I think we all know about Christmas for the most part.
Yeah. Well,
at least in America.
Yeah.
All right, and then Hanukkah. The 8-day Jewish celebration known as Hanukkah, or Hanukkah, commemorates the rededication, during the 2nd century BC of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. According to legend, Jews had risen up against their Greek-Syrian oppressors in the Maccabean revolt. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Hanukkah, which means dedication in Hebrew, begins on the 25th of Kislev on the Hebrew calendar, usually falls in November or December. Hanukkah 2022 begins on the evening of Sunday, December 18th, and ends on the evening of Monday, December 26th. Often called the Festival of Lights, the holiday is celebrated with the lighting the menorah, traditional foods, games, and gifts. All right, the history of Hanukkah. The events that inspired the Hanukkah holiday took place in a particularly turbulent phase of Jewish history. Around 200 BC, Judea, also known as the Land of Israel, came under control of Antiochus III, the Seleucid king of Syria, who allowed the Jews who lived there to continue practicing their religion. His son Antiochus IV of Epiphanes proved less benevolent. Ancient sources recount that he outlawed the Jewish religion and ordered the Jews to worship Greek gods. In 168 BC, his soldiers descended upon Jerusalem, massacring thousands of people and desecrating the city's holy second temple by erecting an altar to Zeus and sacrificing pigs within its sacred walls. Led by the Jewish priest Mattathias and his 5 sons, a large-scale rebellion broke out against Antiochus and the Seleucid monarchy. When Matthias died in 166 BC, his son Judah, known as Judah Maccabee, the Hammer, took the helm. Within 2 years, the Jews had successfully driven the Syrians out of Jerusalem, relying largely on guerrilla warfare tactics. Judah called on his followers to cleanse the second temple, rebuild its altar, and light its menorah. The golden candelabrum, whose 7 branches represented knowledge and creation and were meant to be kept burning every night. So the Hanukkah miracle. Judah Maccabee and other Jews who took part in the rededication of the second temple witnessed what they believed to be a miracle. Even though there was only enough untainted olive oil to keep the menorah's candles burning for a single day, the flames continued flickering for 8 nights, leaving them time to find a fresh supply. This is why Hanukkah is 8 days long. So the wondrous event inspired the Jewish sages to proclaim a yearly 8-day festival. And there's other interpretations of the Hanukkah story. Some modern historians offer radically different interpretation. In their view, Jerusalem under Antiochus IV had erupted into civil war between 2 camps of Jews, those who had been assimilated into the dominant culture that surrounded them, adopting Greek and Syrian customs, and those who were determined to impose Jewish laws and traditions, even if by force. The traditionalists won out in the end, with the Hasmonean dynasty led by Judah Maccabee's brother and his descendants, wresting control of the land of Israel from the Seleucids and maintaining an independent Jewish kingdom for more than a century. Jewish scholars have also suggested that the first day of Hanukkah may have been a belated celebration of Sukkot, which the Jews had not had the chance to observe during the Maccabean revolt. One of the Jewish religion's most important holidays, Sukkot, consists of 7 days of feasting, prayer, and festivities. So there's decorations and traditions. Our celebration revolves around the kindling of a 9-branch menorah, known in the Hebrew as Hanukkah, as the Hanukkah. On each of the holiday's 8 nights, another candle is added to the menorah after sundown. The 9th candle, called the Shamash, the helper, is used to light the others. Jews typically recite blessings during this ritual and display the menorah prominently in a window as a reminder to others of the miracle that inspired the holiday. The traditional Hanukkah foods are fried in oil. Potato pancakes, known as latkes, very good. Can vouch for those. Love some latkes. And jam-filled donuts, I'm not even going to try to say that word, are particularly popular in many Jewish households. Other Hanukkah customs include playing with 4-sided spinning tops called dreidels and exchanging gifts. Recent decades, particularly in North America, Hanukkah has exploded into a major commercial phenomenon, largely because it falls near or overlaps with Christmas. From a religious perspective, however, it remains a relatively minor holiday that places no restrictions on working, attending school, or other activities. All right, and that's Hanukkah.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew.
Yeah.
I guess any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I did know some of it. I knew about the candle burning for 8 days when they only had oil for 1 day. I've heard that before.
Okay.
But yeah, some of the stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
Like the war between the assimilated Jews and the traditional Jews. That was interesting. That's something I didn't know. But yeah. This next article is about Kwanzaa. So Dr. Maulana Karenga, professor and chairman of Black Studies at California State University, Long Beach, created Kwanzaa in 1966. After the Watts riots in Los Angeles, Dr. Karenga searched for ways to bring African Americans together as a community. He founded US, a cultural organization, and started to research African first fruit harvest celebrations. Karenga combined aspects of several different harvest celebrations, such as those of the Ashanti and those of the Zulu, to form the basis of week-long holiday. Kwanzaa 2021 will take place Sunday, December 26, 2021. Oh, okay. Well, it's already happened. But yeah, but it went from December 26th through January 1st last year.
Okay.
Kwanzaa history. The name Kwanzaa is derived from the phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits in Swahili. Each family celebrates Kwanzaa in its own way, but celebrations often include songs and dances, African drums, storytellings, poetry reading, and a large traditional meal. On each of the 7 nights, the family gathers and a child lights one of the candles on the kinara, candle holder. Then one of the 7 principles is discussed. The principles, called the Nyuzo Saba, 7 principles in Swahili. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too hard. They are values of African culture which contribute to building and reinforcing community among African Americans. Kwanzaa also has 7 basic symbols which represent values and concepts reflective of African culture. An African feast called the Karamu is held on December 31st. So each day of Kwanzaa emphasizes a different principle. There are 7 principles. So the candle lighting ceremony each evening provides the opportunity to gather and discuss the meaning of Kwanzaa. The first night, the black candle in the center is lit, and the principle of umoja, unity, is discussed. 1 candle is lit each evening, and the appropriate principle is discussed. So the 7 principles, or Nyuzo Saba, are a set of ideals created by Dr. Malala Karenga. Each day of Kwanzaa emphasizes a different principle. So unity, or umoja, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Self-determination, kujichagulia, okay? To define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and to speak for ourselves. Collective work and responsibility, ujima, to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and to solve them together. Cooperative economics, ujama, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses and to profit from them together. Purpose, nia, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Creativity, kuumba, to do always as much as we can in the way that we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Faith, imani, to believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. So then there's the 7 symbols. Mazao, the crops, fruits, nuts, and vegetables, symbolizes the work and basis of the holiday. It represents the historical foundation of Kwanzaa, the gathering of the people that is patterned after African harvest festivals in which joy, sharing, unity, and thanksgiving are the fruits of collective planning and work. Since the family is the basic social and economic center of every civilization, the celebration bonded family members, reaffirming their commitment and responsibility to each other. In Africa, the family may have included several generations of 2 or more nuclear families, as well as distant relatives. Ancient Africans didn't care how large the family was, but there was only one leader, the oldest male of the strongest group. For this reason, an entire village may have been composed of one family. The family was a limb of a tribe that shared common customs, cultural traditions, and political unity, and were supposedly descended from common ancestors. The tribe lived by traditions that provided community provided continuity and identity. Tribal laws often determine the value system. Laws and customs encompassing birth, adolescence, marriage, parenthood, maturity, and death. Through personal sacrifice and hard work, the farmers sowed seeds that brought forth new plant life to feed the people and other animals of the earth. To demonstrate their mazal, celebrants of Kwanzaa place nuts, fruit, and vegetables representing work on the mkeka. Alright, then there's the keka, the placemat, made from straw or cloth, comes directly from Africa and expresses history, culture, and tradition, symbolizes the historical and traditional foundation for us to stand on and build our lives, because today stands on our yesterdays, just as the other symbols stand on the mkeka. James Baldwin wrote, "For history is not merely something to be read, and it does not refer merely or even principally to the past. On the contrary, the great force of history comes from the facts that we carry it within us, are consciously controlled by it in many ways, and history is literally present in all that we do. It could scarcely be otherwise, since it is to history that we owe our frames of reference, our identities, and our aspirations." So during Kwanzaa, we study, recall, and reflect on our history and the role we are to play as a legacy to the future. Ancient societies made mats from straw, then dried seams of grain sowed and reaped collectively. The weavers took the stalks and created the household baskets and mats. Today we buy mkeka that are made from kente cloth, African mud cloth, and other textiles from various areas of the African continent. The Mishuma Saba, the Vibunzi, the Mazao, the Zawadi, the Kikumbe, Cha Umoha, and the Kinara are placed directly on the mkeka. So we've got the ear of corn. The stalk of corn represents fertility and symbolizes that through the reproduction of children, the future hopes of the family are brought to life. One ear is called Vibunzi, and 2 or more ears are called Mihindi. So each ear symbolizes a child in the family, and thus 1 ear is placed on the mkeka for each child of the family. If there are no children in the home, 2 ears are still set on the mkeka because each person is responsible for the children of the community. And then there's Mishuma Saba, the 7 candles. Candles are ceremonial objects with 2 primary purposes: to recreate symbolically the sun's power, and to provide light. The celebration of fire through candle burning is not limited to one particular group or country. It occurs everywhere. Mishuma Saba are the 7 candles, 3 red, 3 green, and 1 black. The black candle symbolizes Umoja, unity, the basis of success, and is lit on December 26th. So the 3 green candles, representing Nia, Ujima, and Imani, are placed to the right of the Umoja candle, while the 3 red candles, representing, I forgot how to pronounce that one already, Ujama and Kumba, are placed to the left of it. During Kwanzaa, 1 candle representing 1 principle is lit each day. So the symbolic colors are from the red, black, and green flag, Bendera, created by Marcus Garvey. The colors also represent African gods. Red is the color of Shango, the Yoruba god of fire, thunder and lightning, who lives in the clouds and sends down his thunderbolt when he is angry or offended. It also represents the struggle for self-determination and freedom by people of color. Black is the people, the earth, the source of life, representing hope, creativity, and faith, denoting messages in the opening and closing of doors. And green represents the earth that sustains our lives and provides hope, divination, employment, and the fruits of harvest. And we have the Kinara, the candle holder. It represents the original stock from which we came, our ancestry. The Kinara can be shaped, straight lines, semicircles, or spirals, as long as the 7 candles are separate and distinct, like the candelabra. Kinaras are made from all kinds of materials. Many create their own out of fallen branches, woods, and other natural materials. The Kinara symbolizes the ancestors who were once earthbound, understood the problems of human life, and are willing to protect their progeny from danger, evil, and mistakes. In African festivals, the ancestors are remembered and honored. And the Mashumasab are placed in the Kanara. Then there's the Unity Cup, the Kikombe Cha Umoha, and it's a special cup that is used to perform the libation Tambiko ritual during the Karamu feast on the 6th day of Kwanzaa. In many African societies, libation are poured for the living dead whose souls stay with the earth they tilled. The Igbo of Nigeria believe that to drink the last portion of a libation is to invite the wrath of spirits and the ancestors. Consequently, the last part of the libation belongs to the ancestors. During the Karamu feast, the Kikombe Cha Umoha is passed to family member and guests who drink from it to promote unity. Then the eldest person present pours the libation, usually water, juice, or wine, in the direction of the four winds, north, south, east, and west, to honor ancestors. The eldest asks the god and ancestors to share in the festivities and in return to bless all the people who are not at the gathering. After asking for this blessing, the elder pours the libation on the ground and the group says Amen. Large Kwanzaa gatherings may operate just as communion services in most churches, for which it is common for celebrants to have individual cups and to drink the libation together as a sign of unity. Several families may have a cup that is specifically for the ancestors, and everyone else has his or her own. Last few ounces of the libation are poured into the cup of the host or hostess, who sips it and then hands it to the oldest person in the group who asked for the blessing. Yeah, and the last part is Zawadi gifts. When we celebrate Imani on the 7th day of Kwanzaa, we give meaningful Zawadi gifts to encourage growth, self-determination, achievement, and success. We exchange the gifts with members of our immediate family, especially the children, to promote or reward accomplishments and commitments kept, as well as with our gifts. Handmade gifts are encouraged to promote self-determination, purpose, and creativity, and to avoid the chaos of shopping and conspicuous consumption during the December holiday season. Interesting. That's kind of cool. Family may spend the year making kinaras or may create cards, dolls, or makekas to give to their guests. Accepting a gift implies a moral obligation to fulfill the promise of the gift. It obliges the recipient to follow the training of the host. The gift cements social relationships, allowing the receiver to share the duties and the rights of a family member. Accepting a gift makes the receiver part of the family and promotes umoha. So that is all about Kwanzaa.
Okay.
And then 5 things you may not know about Kwanzaa. We're just going to read these really quick. We won't get into the weeds too much here. So 5 things. Kwanzaa was created in the 1960s. Many people celebrate both Kwanzaa and Christmas. Kwanzaa centers around 7 principles, which we talked about. Homemade and educational gifts are encouraged in order to avoid commercialization. And U.S. presidents habitually wish the nation a happy Kwanzaa. So despite not observing the holiday, former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle issued a statement in 2011 to all those celebrating Kwanzaa. We know that there are still too many Americans going through enormous challenges and trying to make ends meet, the president said. But we also know that in the spirit of unity, or Umoha, we can overcome those challenges together. Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush released similar statements during their time in office. The holiday also has made inroads with the U.S. Postal Service, which has issued Kwanzaa stamps since 1977. And then the last thing here is Saturnalia. We're going to go over that a little bit. So held in mid-December, it's an ancient Roman pagan festival honoring the agricultural god Saturn. Because of when the holiday occurred near the winter solstice, Saturnalia celebrations are the source of many traditions we now associate with Christmas, such as wreaths, candles, feasting, and gift-giving. Saturnalia, most popular holiday on the ancient Roman calendar, derived from older farming rituals of midwinter and the winter solstice, especially the practice of offering gifts or sacrifices to the gods during the winter sowing season. The pagan celebration of Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture and time, began as a single day, but by the late Republic, it has expanded to a week-long festival beginning December 17th on the Julian calendar, which the Romans used at the time. The winter solstice fell on December 25th. So, how they celebrated Saturnalia. Work and business came to a halt. Schools and courts of law closed, and the normal social patterns were suspended. People decorated their homes with wreaths and other greenery and shed their traditional togas in favor of colorful clothes known as synthesis. Even enslaved people did not have to work during Saturnalia, but were allowed to participate in the festivities. In some cases, they sat at the head of the table while their masters served them. Interesting. Instead of working, Romans spent Saturnalia gambling, singing, playing music, feasting, socializing, and giving each other gifts. Wax taper candles called cerae were common gifts during Saturnalia to signify light returning after the solstice. On the last day of Saturnalia celebrations, known as Sigillaria, many Romans gave their friends and loved ones small terracotta figurines known as signallaria. Signallaria. Yeah, I said that right. Which may have referred back to older celebrations involving human sacrifice. Saturnalia was by far the jolliest Roman holiday. The Roman poet Catullus famously described it as the best of times. So riotous were the festivities that the Roman author Pliny reportedly built a soundproof room so that he could work during the raucous celebrations. Yeah, and then we'll just go how Saturnalia led to Christmas. Thanks to the Roman Empire's conquest in Britain and the rest of Europe from the 2nd century BC to the 4th century AD, and their suppression of older seasonal rites practiced by the Celts and other groups, today's Western cultures derive many of their traditional celebrations of midwinter from Saturnalia. The Christian holiday of Christmas especially owes many of its traditions to the ancient Roman festival, including the time of year Christmas is celebrated. The Bible does not give a date for Jesus' birth. In fact, some theologians may have concluded, or they did have concluded, that he was probably born in spring, as suggested by references to shepherds and sheep in the Nativity story. But by 4th century AD, Western Christian churches settled on celebrating Christmas December 25th, which allowed them to incorporate the holiday with Saturnalia and other popular pagan midwinter traditions. So pagans and Christians coexisted, though not always happily, during this period, and this likely represented an effort to convince the remaining pagan Romans to accept Christianity as Rome's official religion. Before the end of the 4th century, many of the traditions of Saturnalia, including giving gifts, singing, lighting candles, feasting, and merrymaking, had become absorbed by the traditions of Christmas as many of us know them today. So that is everything I had to cover for today. Learned a lot. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
No, I don't think let me double check, but I don't think I had anything. Just, I think it's good to be open to learning about all the different holidays that are celebrated around this time, and any time, I would say, too.
Yeah, definitely.
I think inclusivity and diversity are amazing things. So
yeah, and
I love
makes the world more
learning
fun.
about, yeah, definitely. And I just love learning about things that I didn't know about before, because I feel like it just helps make me and all of us more well-rounded. So
yeah,
but yeah, I don't think I had anything else to add. So that was all you had too?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys can leave a comment below letting us know what you want us to talk about in future episodes.
Yeah, you can reach out to us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and we do occasionally do some Twitch live streams.
Yes, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you are notified when we do. But otherwise, we will see you guys next time.